Joining me now, Vanita Gupta, former head of the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division. She currently serves as the president and the CEO of the Leadership Conference on Human Rights, Civil and Human Rights, And with me as well, Roland Martin, host and managing editor of Roland Martin Unfiltered. He's the author of The First, President Barack Obama's Road to the White House. Good morning to both of you. Thank you for being with us. Roland, you and I go back many years, and we've had this conversation many times. President Obama pointed out at a drive-in rally in Philadelphia the other day that about 55% of Americans vote in presidential elections, and in elections that don't have a president running, the turnout tends to be lower at the state and municipal levels. Something is happening in Harris County in Texas, and I just want to read this to you. Mother Jones published this. Harris County was able to harness this backlash against suppression by taking aggressive steps at the local level to make it easier to vote. It increased its election budget from $4 million in 2016 to $33 million in 2020, tripled the number of early voting locations, set up drive-through voting for the first time in Texas history, converted sports arenas into polling sites, and extended polling hours, even opening a 24-hour polling station starting next week for shift workers and essential workers. All this means that the voters have lots of options to turn their frustration at suppression into votes. Your take on this, sir?
Well, first and foremost, I'm from Houston. That is Harris County. That's what happens when you have Chris Hollins, who is the county clerk. That's what happens when you have Democrats who have a majority on the county commission, which actually funds voting. You have folks like Commissioner Rodney Ellis, former state senator. That's one of the reasons why you have that. That's also why in Texas, Democrats are 9 seats away from controlling the Texas House. The real reason Governor Greg Abbott really limited to one county mail drop box is because not Biden and against Trump. It's because he doesn't want Democrats to take control of the Texas House. There's been an explosion in Texas in these suburban counties, in Harris County, Dallas County, Bayard County, San Antonio, Travis County, and Austin. 97% in Travis County of folks are registered who are eligible because they've seen what happened. And this is also because Republican governors have been recruiting people across the country, companies to move to Texas. Guess what they also bring? Employees have a different perspective. That's also the reason why Texas is changing. And so great work, Harris County. And that's why Republicans in 2017 outlawed straight party voting, because Democrats were kicking their butt. And that's why they did not want straight ticket voting. So you see how Republicans want to depress turnout, because they know if few people vote, they have a greater chance of winning. More people vote, greater chance of losing. That's why we got to have fair elections in this country.
So, Vanita, there are lots of ways to depress turnout, right? Social media does it. The president does it by talking about the fraud in the voting system. What Roland just describes is a way of doing it. But there's another one, and it's straight-up intimidation. Last night on Chris Hayes, Jenna Griswold, the Secretary of State for Colorado, warned that in all states, you're welcome to be a poll worker or register with the party to be an observer, but you actually just can't show up, watch voting, videotape it, and carry a gun around intimidating people. The New York Times reports that the Trump campaign has been videotaping Philadelphia voters while they deposit their ballots in drop boxes, leading Pennsylvania's Attorney General to warn this week that the campaign's actions fall outside of permitted poll watching practices and could amount to illegal voter intimidation. With 10 days to go, Vanita, what do we do about this? Is this a lawsuit thing? Is this an Attorney General thing? Or is this a message to Americans to say, get out there and vote, even if people are doing things that seem to be designed to intimidate you from doing so?
It's all of it. This is a situation where the law is very clear. Voter intimidation is absolutely against the law, regardless of what the president has tried to say. And I will say state attorneys general, local election officials are on high alert for this type of thing and are not going to tolerate it. We've been talking to local election officials, to local law enforcement that has been standing up, saying everyone has a right to vote. We are going to work hard to protect it. Voter safety is our #1 priority this election season. And so I think voters need to have the confidence that they can go vote early, vote as early as you can. It'll relieve stress off of the election system. But there are very clear laws in place against voter intimidation, harassment of voters, blocking of polling access. You can't just show up, as you said, and pretend to be a poll watcher. There's training involved in that. And so this moment right now is going to call on vigilance from everyone. If anyone sees any problem or experiences an intimidating situation, they should call the Civil Rights Coalition hotline, 866-OUR-VOTE, or speak to a local election official. There's a lot of guardrails in place that our system has set up, in no small part because of the history of voter intimidation against African-American voters for generations, and our laws are robust. And I will say local election officials are on high alert for this.
Hey, Ali, there's something
vote. I will send that out. Go ahead, Roland.
There's something very important that Vanita can actually speak to. The Republican Party is no longer under a consent decree where they do not engage in this kind of activity. And to be perfectly honest, Democrats got to also accept some of the blame. Vanita, you can speak to this. They did not allow, Vanita, if I'm correct, third parties like your organization to be able to participate in that particular lawsuit, correct?
Yeah, that was absolutely the case. But I think you're bringing up a really important point, and this is why local election officials are on high alert. For several decades, the Republican Party, actually, the RNC, was under a consent decree. This is going to be the first general election where that is not the case, around voter intimidation and a set of situations that happened in New Jersey. I think the most important thing, though, right now is for voters to have confidence that they can cast their vote free from intimidation, that there are, local election officials on high alert. The good news is, as much as we've all been on high alert, things have been going relatively smoothly. It's really important that the media is detecting problems when they arise, that local election officials are alerted to it, that 866-OUR-VOTE is a resource. Voters just need to have a confidence in this election. There's been so much disinformation and spewed not only by folks at the local level, but of course by the president. And we have to sift through and not get distracted and not lose focus on the thing that needs to happen right now. We are seeing historic turnout. I think today already 54 million Americans have voted. And so the laws are in place to protect against voter intimidation, and voters should just go out there and vote. High voter turnout is the best inoculation against all of this.
I was in North Carolina on Tuesday, Ali, and guess what? There are groups that are set up to help people. They are actually out there watching the people who want to intimidate. I was in Raleigh, North Carolina, Greensboro, Durham. And so there are organizations, nonpartisan groups who are saying they are watching and looking out for people to intimidate voters, telling them you don't have to stop and talk to anyone. You don't have to show anything to them. You can just show them the hand and keep moving. And so that's also important for people to understand.
Thank you for setting that up for me, Roland, because I will be in North Carolina in 6 hours talking to another group of voters, as I've been doing every weekend. It is a remarkably interesting. The Carolinas themselves are just remarkably interesting stories in this election. 2 competitive Senate races, African Americans coming out in numbers that we have not seen since Barack Obama. Suburban voters getting to react to Donald Trump's warnings about all the people who are going to invade and wreck their property values. It'll be interesting to watch. Thanks to the two of you. Vanita, we'll get that phone number out, by the way. Mississippi. Yeah, absolutely. I just can't reach Mississippi from North Carolina today. We'll put that number out there, 866-OUR-VOTE. Vanita Gupta is the president and CEO of the Conference on Civil and Human Rights. Roland Martin is the host and managing editor of Roland Martin Unfiltered and the author of The First, President Barack Obama's Road to the White House. Thank you for kicking it off for us this morning with just